this match is between Jacob Wilson, who is on your left, qualifying by winning a Star City Games Legacy Open with Rog Delver, versus Tom the Boss Ross. He is playing one of probably the new archetype of the format right now. He and a bunch of other players this weekend are playing a deck which they've called Gruul Blitz.
Yeah, and Tom has had actually a lot of success with this deck. It's a very hyper-aggressive red deck, which we said can put a lot of pressure on control decks. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in this game.
This deck is gunning for blue in the metagame. It has 4 main deck Sky Lashers to start with.
Wow.
So
he definitely does not want to lose to mono blue.
Right.
Jacob's deck, it's kind of similar to what we saw last week with the William Jensen in terms of, it's playing the 1 Elixir of Immortality main. Only 2 copies of Last Breath, which I'm pretty sure he's going to regret for this particular matchup. Obviously, Last Breath is great against a deck like Gruul Blitz.
All right, well, Jacob's on the plays game. He started off on Azorius, Guildgate, and an island. No plays yet, no surprise. Tom on the other side, though, starting off with, no joke there, a Crowan Crusader, and he's going to Madcap Skills at turn 2.
This is one of the cool cards in Tom's deck. A Crowan Crusader is a card that we haven't really seen have a lot of action, or 0 action, to be honest. But one of those cards that can, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I was going to say, the Azorius Charm Mana's open there. Tom went ahead and swung into it, and the Crusader will go back to the top of the deck.
So Tom took a chance there, but unfortunately didn't pay off for him, so he's only able to attack for 1 there. And that is one of the disadvantages of Tom's deck. He's kind of all in sometimes.
You're playing Madcap Skills, right? You have to just, removal's going to be good against you.
Yeah. But looks like Tom has a good follow-up. It looks like he has an Ash Zealot here, so he can still continue to put a lot of pressure on Jacob.
He's going to go ahead and go for Ash Zealot, and then put Jacob down to 16. Remember that 1/1 actually off a Crowan Crusader does get haste when he targets it, so was able to get a point in last turn.
So it looks like Jacob's hand is not the best. He's got a Detention Sphere. It looks like he does have a 4th mana. He might have a Jace. So if he can get that Jace into play, it could be interesting. But
yeah, Stomping Ground untapped. We'll go ahead and replay the Crowan Crusader, and he'll pass the turn back. How much can Tom afford to play around cards like Supreme Verdict here? I'm looking at this board. I'm like, oh man, what if Jacob, sweeps his board?
I think Tom plays this matchup like I don't care if he has I don't care if he has Supreme Verdict. I have to win. Yeah, I think he has to play aggressively. I don't think he can afford to try to play around cards like Supreme Verdict. He has to try to just win the game.
Yeah. Well, as predicted by you there, Jacob does make the play of Jace, pluses it to 5, and pretty much negates Tom's board there. He can still swing 1.
Yeah, that's a huge card there for Jacob here. Basically, he can only attack for 1. It doesn't look like Tom has. I know he has cards like Titan Strength and Dragon Mantle.
Right.
Could help here.
For those of you home, this is an exciting deck. Yeah, 4 Titan Strengths, 2 Dragon Mantles, and a Giant Growth, as well as 2 Armed Dangerous for combat tricks.
Yeah, Armed Dangerous actually can be pretty interesting with a card like a Crowan Crusader, but Tom does not have much to get through that Jace here, so he can only add another Rakdos Cackler to the board.
Yeah.
But that's not going to do much against Jace right now.
Well, he did play Temple of Abandon and decided to scry to the top, so presumably he has a plan here. But you're right that the board looks pretty, he's not pushing very much damage at the moment.
No. So it looks like Jacob drew a Dissolve for the turn. He's going to uptick Jace and just pass it back to Thomas. He has a Detention Sphere in his hand, chose not to use it, wants to have a Dissolve mana up just in case there's anything tricky on Tom's side.
Jacob did miss his 5th land drop here.
Yep. But right now, still, Jace is doing good work of slowing the game down, and there's not that many cards that Tom can sort of top deck to blow Jacob out of the water right here. He's going to need to kind of figure something out. I don't know how much burn he has in his deck. Doesn't look like it's
there's
that
not
much.
too much. Tom has just the 4 Lightning Strikes, unless you're counting Titan Strengths as burn. It's just Lightning Strikes.
So what does Jacob do? It looks like he has a white card. I'm not sure if it's a Last Breath or not.
Yeah. Tom played a 5th land there and then swung, knocking Jace down to 3. It looks like Jacob, he has a Dissolve, a Detention Spear, and a 3rd card here.
Yeah, 5 lands for Tom is pretty unlucky because he only runs 19. He does not want to have more than 2-3 lands in play. He really just wants to draw a lot of action. That's kind of, how his deck is built. So 5 lands is kind of a rough break for Tom in this game. But let's see what Jacob decides to do here. I don't think he's under too much pressure, but he might want to cast that. Is that Last Breath? It looks like,
Yeah, it is Last Breath. So he's going to go ahead and Last Breath the Ash Zealot.
And, he does that, it looks like at the end of turn, which is unfortunate because he was forced to tap out, so he couldn't cast Dissolve in response to the Lightning
and Tom was
Strike.
able to use a Lightning Strike to take out the Jace. So that's actually pretty big here.
Yeah, it's a huge turn for him. Jacob does have a lot of removal. He has, I believe, a Pacifism and a Detention Sphere in his hand. But again, what are you going to Detention Sphere right here?
Yeah, he has a Syncopate.
Wow.
It's a Syncopate and
it's
a
a
Detention
Syncopate,
Sphere,
okay.
so not even as Good. We see another Madcap Skills hitting a Crone Crusader, and Jacob is forced to dissolve there.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty hard for him to get value off
Un-
that Syncopate, isn't it?
Unfortunately, the Madcap Skills did target a Crone Crusader, so he still gets a token out of it,
Right.
even though it was countered.
So that means that now adds up to 6 power on Tom's side of the board.
Yeah, so Jacob decides to scry to the bottom. Tom has, like you said, 6 power, I believe 5 power only. At Crone Crusaders are 1-1. So looks like he has 5 power on his board.
Oh, you're right.
And
there we go.
Ooh, here's the armed
Armed dangerous. So that's he's just using the armed half. That's 1/1 and a double strike until end of turn. So it creates another creature. Yeah, Jacob reading it as well. So that's going to be 4, 5, 6, a swing of 9 this turn
Wow.
for Tom.
So Jacob is going to go down to 7. It looks like he does have a detention sphere, so he can deal with those 3 tokens all in one swoop. But he's still going to be facing down 3 points worth of power.
All right, so our draw here, and he just
Oh.
hits Supreme Verdict. Like doesn't even bother to put it in his hand.
I believe he did scry to the bottom, so that was a top deck, a true top deck. And Tom's out of gas, unfortunately.
It's a
And
pretty
now-
big turn for Jacob.
Yeah. Jacob has a Syncopate in his hand, Azorius Charm, and
Yeah.
still has that detention sphere. He didn't have to use it yet, so suddenly things look pretty good for Jacob here.
He's used the Azorius Charm. It looks like he's digging for a land.
Oh, an Elixir of Immortality, give himself a little life cushion there.
All right. So this has been the development from Huey's deck. One of the questions when I see Elixir is just how many win cons is Jacob actually playing?
He's got 1 Elspeth and 4 Jace Architect of Thought, so it's similar to Huey's list.
Where
it's-
there isn't the Aetherling
Yeah.
is gone, the big Jace 5 is gone.
It's 5 Planeswalkers, and that's it.
All right, Burning Tree Emissary will try to deal some extra damage for just Tom, but Jacob does have the Azorius Charm and puts it on top of the deck. Tom
Ooh.
follows up with Gore Clan Rampager.
So it looks like we're going to see Jacob crack that Elixir, gain some life, shuffle all those cards back in his library. So now he's going to go up to 12. He does have an answer for the Gruul Guildmate, the Gore Clan Rampager in Detention Sphere. Plus, he knows
Yeah.
Tom's just going to draw a Burning Tree Emissary next turn.
Right, he has this Detention Sphere and a Syncopate. The Syncopate's probably just not a card.
Yeah, Tom has too much mana in play, and all his cards are so small that it's not really going to probably play too much of a part in this game.
Yeah, so he does have Sphinx's Revelation in his hand, and now every good draw of Hallowed Fountain, so he's up to 5 mana. Interesting question would be to see when Jacob decides to fire off this Revelation.
I think he just wants to draw. I think he's going to cast it for 2.
He's drawn Last Breath.
Actually, he just drew Last Breath, so it's possible he might just try to Last Breath, and then, yeah. So it looks like he's just going to main phase Last Breath and then pass the turn.
All right.
Tom has really no pressure, so there's no reason for Jacob not to get a little more value out of the Revelations.
Yeah, and smart of him to main phase it. He may not know that Tom's running through a Giant Growth and 4 Titan Strengths,
Yeah.
but it turns out to be in his favor that he main phased. And a huge draw for Jacob.
Yeah, here's another Jace. Of course, he does have 4 in his deck after he used the
Right.
Elixir.
All right, Tom will go for Gore Clan Rampager. Once again, it is going to resolve.
And it looks like we're going to have a mini Factor Fiction here.
All right, so we see Last Breath, Dissolve, and Plains as the flips. Now, of note, there are actually only 2 Last Breaths in the main of Jacob's deck. He just has happened to cast 3 of them this game.
Yeah. And it looks, this is actually an interesting situation here because Jacob it doesn't look like Jacob has an answer for that Gore Clan Rampager right now.
It's going to be able to take down Jace.
It's going to be able to take down Jace. Plus, he's got the Sphinx Revelation. He does have another land. So, things not that bad for Jacob still. But again, Tom can, if he top decks an Armed and Dangerous, or I wonder I guess a Titan Strength.
Right. Then he could.
Yeah,
all right.
If he draws an Armed and Dangerous, he might.
He could swing lethal. That is 5/5 double strike.
Jacob would have to gain 3 life in
3 life.
response. So yeah, but no, it'd be interesting to see what Tom can pull out of here because again, Rampager will not die this turn. It will get 2 attack.
And a good split there by Tom. He split it Dissolve in one and land Last Breath in the other. Jacob opted for the Dissolve in what I think is a pretty close split.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, but I think he just wants to counter something and then be able to scry. It's probably more powerful in this particular situation. Let's see what Tom does.
Madcap Skills in Tom's hand along with 2 other cards.
It looks like it might be a Lightning Strike. Maybe he'll try to go for the kill. I'm pretty sure you want to cast Madcap Skills.
Well, he knows that Jacob has the Dissolve, so...
I mean, why not bait it, though?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you can
And plus
get,
it- plus
if
it
you
means
can get
he-
Dissolve on Madcap Skills, you're pretty happy about that, right?
Exactly. Plus, it means Jacob can't cast Sphinx Revelation this turn. And it just puts Jacob in kind of an awkward position for next turn. But Let's see what Tom decides to do here. Yep, he is going to go for the madcap skills.
So the swing will be at Jacob as opposed to Jace?
I think it depends on what Jacob does. If he counters it, yeah. So
If he counters it now, it
if he
goes to
counters it now,
Jace.
it has to kill Jace. Yeah, but I think it's possible Tom would have gone after Jacob if he does have a lightning strike in his hand.
Yeah.
And
So Jacob is now soft to armed dangerous here.
wow.
All right, Titan strength.
This could be it here. Let's see. Does he?
The syncopate is
Tom
going to be live.
The syncopate is suddenly
Suddenly
live.
Yes.
So Tom really has to play this, navigate this turn
Now,
really tight.
does Tom know about the syncopate?
I'm not sure if he knows about the syncopate, but there's no reason for him. He doesn't have to just run it out there. I think he can hold on to it. I don't think he has to cast lightning strike now. He can wait. He can wait
right.
for Jacob because Jacob still has to answer that Rampager.
Yeah, and he does just that. Jacob draws Supreme Verdict for the turn. He'll start by minusing the Jace. Tom
Yeah.
lets this happen. It is land, Azorius Charm.
So that's actually a good factor fiction there because he can actually answer the Rampager and still have Syncopate mana up. But again, Syncopate mana up for this turn to stop Tom from casting Lightning Strike this turn. But
Well, Tom has... He can't leave up Syncopate, right? Because Tom will next turn... Okay,
well,
this turn.
the thing is, if Jacob's answer to Rampager was Supreme Verdict, then Tom could get that
Tom could get the
Lightning
three
Strike to resolve.
Yeah, I think what he's going to have to hope for here is that he can force Jacob to Revelation on 1.
Well, I think, let's see,
Right.
does he have... Yeah, I think he has to just see...
Because if he swings, Jacob will Charm, and then if he goes for the kill, Jacob has to Rev for 1 to not die, which is...
I think, is Tom just passing here? I think Tom might just be passing the turn.
He won't no swing.
Yeah, it doesn't look like... Because he knows about the Azorius Charm. Maybe he just wants him to use it.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't have a way to get the Azorius Charm out of Jacob's hand, so he's going to have to commit some sort of
Well, the
resource
question is,
into it.
does he want to draw a Rampager for the turn, though? That's
Sure.
the thing. It's
Or is he
it's
just
a
trying to draw
trade-off.
more burn?
Yeah, it's a trade-off between drawing a Rampager again for the turn or just making Jacob hold that mana up. And it looks like Tom's debating on what he wants to do here. And it looks like he does pass the turn.
All right. So Jacob draws the land there. Jace is going to tick up to 2 and pass. So the longer they play this
Oh.
game, and Skylasher...
Skylasher comes down. So now that is something that can attack and not get Azorius Charm. But it looks like Jacob is going to try to go for the Revelations here, not putting Tom on a Lightning Strike.
That will
Nope.
make him... Yeah, that,
Jacob did consider it.
All right. So you see Skylasher there. Remember, this is a 4 of in this Gruul Blitz deck.
So this is awesome here because now that Rampager can target the Skylasher next turn.
All right, so this is a swing for 1, thanks to Jace's plus ability. It puts Jacob down to 2.
So Jacob now, it's going to be tough for him to not, yeah, because he's going to have to Supreme Verdict next turn, I think,
Right.
in order to
If
deal
he
with the
verdicts
Lasher
the-
because he knows about the Rampager.
If he verdicts, he's going to die to Lightning
I think
Strike.
he has to cast Revelations here. That's the problem.
But he'll die in response.
Exactly. He doesn't know, but I think he has to take the chance. He doesn't know Tom has the Lightning Strike.
Yeah, I mean, if he knows it, he can't really play around it. So he's going to
Yeah,
go for
and
Lightning
there it
Strike,
is.
and then
Yeah.
Tom takes it.
That's the thing. Jacob really didn't have much of a choice there. I think he had to try to take a chance because he's going to have to cast Supreme Verdict next turn in order to deal with the Skylasher because he knows
Right.
Jacob's going to,
And
Tom's
you
going
could
to draw
tell
a Rampage.
from his reaction speed there that Jacob heavily suspected a Lightning Strike. And I think what he figured out is that he just couldn't play around it.
Oh yeah, if you could tell because if he definitely put Tom on not having a Lightning Strike, he would have just cast it on his upkeep. He definitely
Right.
considered it. By not doing it, he sort of put him on having Lightning Strike. But like you said, at a certain point, he realized I don't really have much of a choice. I have to just kind of go against my better judgment and just try to get this to resolve here.
All right, so game 1 in favor of Gruul Blitz. I think what's pretty impressive there is that the blue-white control deck more or less stabled on double-digit life, and then Tom was able to win regardless, which that's pretty impressive, at least to me. Not many decks get to do that.
Well, there's not many cards in Tom's deck that can dodge a Last Breath, which Jacob had in his hand, but Rampager is one of those cards, and Rampager is actually kind of difficult for Jacob's deck to deal with outside of the Tension Sphere and Supreme Verdict. So, and Jacob was forced to use that Supreme Verdict early on. So Tom actually, despite the fact it looked really bad for him, you know, he drew a lot of lands and the Supreme Verdict wiped away his whole board, was able to pull it off. Pretty impressive.
So you look at the sideboard, so the question is, what does a Gruul Blitz sideboard look like? I think that it looks like the main deck, it has most of its control hate in it. He does have 2 Domri Rads, which he'll almost certainly bring in this matchup. Outside of that, the other things in his sideboard look like they're tailored toward other matches. I'll just run you through a couple of the things he has access to in number. He has Skullcracks, Peak Eruptions, Shocks, and Fire Drinker Satyrs as like the main bulk of his sideboard.
Wow, yeah. Skullcrack, obviously a very huge card in this matchup. Be interesting to see what he decides to board out there. Probably a lot of the madcaps. He's probably not going to go all in on Acroom Crusader against the deck with Last Breath.
Right.
And on Jacob's side, again, he's got a typical sideboard with a Fiendslayer Paladin. You know, we've been seeing some of those blue-white decks board those. He's got 2 Fiendslayer Paladins, 2 Celestial Flare, 2 Last Breath. Those are the 6 cards I definitely expect him to bring in this matchup. He also has 3 copies of Gainsay, 1 Negate, 2 Dispel, 1 Pithing Needle, 1 Glare of Heresy, and 1 Jace Memory Adept.
So
none of those cards I expect to come in, obviously.
I, for one, am kind of interested to see how this plays out post-board. I've been playing a lot of blue-white, and I know that it tends to have a bad matchup game 1 against red aggro decks, and that's why you see a full 4 Flares and Last Breaths in the board. Typically, that's what's used to shore up games 2 and 3 in those matchups. The question is whether or not that will still work against a Gruul Blitz deck. Certainly against a deck that's playing a Crowan Crusader, a Celestial Flare becomes a pretty weak card.
Yeah, the problem is I just don't think Jacob could afford to not bring it in because look
he'll
at game 1.
Yeah.
Game 1 was one of those situations. I agree with you, though. Obviously, it's not that impressive against a deck like this Gruul Blitz deck we're seeing. The question is, though, is Tom really going to go all in on the Acroom Crusader plan? I don't know if he can afford to keep in cards like Dragon Mental and Madcap Skills against a deck that has Last Breath, you know?
Well, he can only board in so many things. So
that's true.
I mean, he has 11 targeted, 13 targeted spells here, it looks like. Yeah, 13 target spells. He has Dragon Mental, Titan Strength, Giant Growth, Arm Dangerous, Madcap Skills. Certainly he can't board out for like 13 cards. So his game plan of, a Crowan Crusader, throw something on it, he probably has to continue that game plan into the sideboard.
Well, the thing is, though, I'm not sure you need the Arm Dangerous. Well, Arm Dangerous can steal some wins. I just think it's hard against
it is. No, you're absolutely right.
But, Fire Drink Satyr, I could see him bringing that card in. I could see him bringing the Skullcrack. So, talking about 7 cards with the Dharma Rise they can bring in.
All right, so game 1, game 2, both players start with tap lands. Tom scries 1, he keeps it on top. Jacob, to no surprise, just will develop his mana base.
Yeah, so a little awkward start for Tom. No 1-drop, despite the fact that he has a number of 1-drops in his deck.
Yeah, well, a lot of times we expect this. If they don't have a 1-drop, they usually have a Burning Tree. And Tom does. He goes Burning Tree into Skylasher.
Yeah, if your Gruul Blitz deck does not have a 1-drop and you didn't mulligan, in all likelihood, you're going to see a Burning Tree on turn 2.
Yeah. Jacob does once again have a Last Breath. Remember, he has a full set of them now. And this one will take out Skylasher. It's one of the few cards that can do it.
Yeah. And Jacob does have that Celestial Flare, one of the 2 in his sideboard in his hand right now.
Yeah, so off Tom's draw, we'd see Fire Drinker Satyr was drawn. So those have been boarded in for this matchup.
So let's see. It looks like Tom does have those Madcap Skills still in his deck. Let's see if he tries to be a little aggressive here and skill up that Burning Tree Emissary.
Yeah, so he's Satyrs, Madcap Skills. He's playing into that 2 mana, so it's how much respect does he want to give Azorius Charm?
So Celestial Flare is going to take out the Burning Tree Emissary.
Yeah, Jacob's still at 20. Tom will commit a Fire Drinker Satyr and nothing else to the board. And he seems really far behind right now to me, just because he doesn't look like he's been able to make headway.
Yeah, I mean, it's turn 4 and Jacob's at 20. And
right.
That is not the position Tom really wants to be in. Here we're going to see a Jace come down and it's going to uptick, and Fire Drinker Satyr can get pumped, so it's going to be able to do some damage. So it's a pretty risky play from Jacob because obviously there's a lot of pump in Tom's deck, but I think Jacob's okay with that.
Yeah, Tom, if he really wants it, Tom could have Gore Clan. Okay, this is better. He's in a Madcap Skills, the Fire Drinker, pump it. That does make it a 6, which is enough to, through the trigger, still take out the Jace.
Yeah, so pretty good draw there because he didn't have to commit too much, but he's still going to get 2 for 1 with that Detention Sphere.
Yeah. So
but again, it did take out a Jace.
It's 2 for
so
2
it's 2
now,
for 2,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then as you saw, Gore Clan Rampager, that's a tap out for Tom. That card gave Jacob all sorts of problems game 1.
Ooh.
This game is going to get hit by a Detention Sphere.
Second Detention Sphere, so good draw there from Jacob. It looks like he might have another Jace in his hand.
Yeah, I think he has he has an Azorius Charm and a Jace, along with the 3rd card.
And there's a Satyr.
Yep, so Tom will play a replacement Fire Drinker Satyr, but and Madcap Skills it. But you said before, Jacob still sitting at 20.
Yeah, Jacob has so many ways to 2 for 1 Tom. It just seems really, really bad for Tom. But let's see what he decides to do here. We're going to see a Jace and just a Foff. Interesting.
Yeah, because we already saw that a Fire Drinker Satyr plus Madcap skills can take out a Jace. This will be no exception.
And I think Jacob does have ways to. He has an Azorius Charm, so he could have just cast Azorius Charm, kept mana up in order to protect his Jace. But I think he's comfortable with just drawing some cards here, getting more mana, so he can cast a Sphinx of Revelation that's in his hand
Yeah. So
later in the game.
Yeah, he does have the Revelation. He has an Azorius Charm. All he really has to do is make land drops, and he'll get to Sphinx's Revelation. I like how it was played because when he's at 20, he can afford a couple hits here, right?
Yeah. And yeah, again, it's possible that Tom's just going to take out Jace here anyway, so he might take 0 damage this turn. Let's see what Tom decides to do.
So we see Dragon Mantle and Fire Drinker Satyr, and a double pump. This time off Dragon Mantle, we'll go ahead and swing in for 7.
Oh wow! And it looks like Tom might have a Ranger's Guile in his hand.
Yeah, no, he does have a Ranger's Guile in his hand.
That would be huge.
That is a one-of in the sideboard that he decided to put in.
Yeah, that can be really huge here because I think Jacob might. It looks like he might just have the Azorius Charm as the answer there.
Yeah. Now Jacob.
Oh, no, it looks like he drew a Celestial Flare.
Tom decided to swing 7 and not take out the Jace. He gave Jacob another mini Foff.
Yeah, and Jacob does have a Last Breath, but Last Breath is not an answer to Fire Drink Satyr right now.
No, not at all. So Jacob now, though, with a 7-card hand, thanks to that Jace, let's go ahead and make land number 6. He's going to play a replacement Jace. Minus it again. So he'll be back up to 7 cards.
Wow. So Jacob, assuming that Azorius Charm is going to be able to take out that Fire Drinker Satyr, little does he know, though, that Tom does have a Ranger's Guile, it appears. So
Right.
It'll be able to give the Fire Drinker Satyr hexproof and deal much more damage.
Well, Tom's almost going to have to cheese out here, right? He's going to have to do something like Armed Dangerous Ranger's Guile, swing at the face.
So let's see here. He could do 5. He can pump it 3 times 8, and plus the Ranger's Guile, so that's 9. So you can drop Jacob down to 4, I think.
If he had an Armed Dangerous, he could leave.
If he had Armed Dangerous, it'd be lethal. So let's see.
Which is kind of scary, actually. It's something I don't really expect out of standard decks.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom's deck can get some pretty absurd draw. I think he can get turn 3 kills pretty, yeah. He can get a turn 3
They're
kill.
possible. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's see what Tom decides to do here. I think Tom is pretty sure that Jacob has an Azorius Charm. Jacob wouldn't play that turn as aggressively as he did if he didn't have a way to deal with Fire Drinker Satyr.
Right, it might be a Celestial Flare, to be fair.
That's true. That's probably what I think that's what Tom's thinking about. But I don't think Tom can afford to not attack here. He just has to kind of hope that it's Azorius Charm.
Well, the thing is, so the reason you wouldn't attack was, as we saw before, to kind of, just indefinitely tie up Jacob's mana. The thing is that I don't think that hinders Jacob enough. Like, Jacob can probably he'll just leave 2 up every turn.
Not only that, but you can't just lose to Supreme Verdict. I mean,
Right.
Tom's only option, but if Tom chooses not to attack here, that means he has to force more creatures to the board, which plays right into Supreme Verdict. So I think Tom's only option here is to really attack, hope it's not a Celestial Flare.
All right, and he will swing with Fire Drinker Satyr and a double pump. It will attempt to get Azorius Charmed, and Ranger's Guile will protect it. So the Fire Drinker Satyr with Madcap skills was pumped to a 6-1. Now is a 7-2 hexproof and will put Jacob down to a low 6 life points.
So Ranger's Guile doing some serious work right there. The one-of in Tom Ross's sideboard.
Tom doesn't have another one, so.
And yeah, Tom's going to get that Rakdos Cackler into play. Not really caring about Supreme Verdict. He's more concerned with a card like Sphinx of Revelation.
And Jacob hadn't hit the verdict previously, but he does hit the verdict now on the draw.
So Jacob draws Supreme Verdict here. Wondering what he wants to do here. Maybe he wants to try to...
Just Revelation?
Maybe. No, he's going to just
verdict.
Verdict. Yep.
Yeah, I
can't imagine not getting rid of both those creatures there. It's possible he wants to try to get a Revelation in under a Skullcrack, thinking that Skullcrack's going to come in, but no, he has a Supreme Verdict there, and Tom just has a Fire Drinker Satyr, or Burning Tree into a Fire Drinker Satyr.
Yep, so this is kind of a last attempt here for Tom, but it's not going to go particularly well. Last Breath takes out the Burning Tree Emissary.
And again, Jacob playing around pump spells to make sure his Last Breath's effective, or if Tom does have a pump spell to save it, it won't matter. It won't do extra damage to him.
All right, Mutavault now played by Jacob, and he pluses the Jace up to 4.
Yeah, Jacob in a pretty good position here. With Mutavault can just threaten to block the Fire Drinker Satyr, so Tom not really having a good attack here, and Jacob can actually cast Sphinx of Revelation for 5, I believe.
Yeah, remember, Jacob does have 2 Revelations, so
yeah,
that should be enough to do it.
Let's see. Doesn't look like Tom has a Skullcrack or maybe he does. Can't tell if it's a Skullcrack in his hand or not. Let's see what Tom decides to do here. He might just try to attack, not, and since he does have a Titan strength, so Titan strength will be able to. No, it actually won't save the Fire Dragon Crusader from the Mutavault.
Right. It will not.
So Tom, not many options right here. Let's see what Tom decides to do. I expect him to probably. Look, he's gonna try to trade with Mutavault
Right,
here.
so he starts out the swing there. Yeah, Mutavault will activate. And block, and they will trade, it looks like.
Oh, so it looks like the damage was done.
The damage was done. So
and Tom didn't realize that the...
because Tom said trade,
yeah.
that means he has no more window in which to pump, which means this guy is just eaten by the Mutavault.
Yeah, Tom forgot about the Jace trigger, and his
Exactly.
so he wasn't able to pump. And Mutavault just ate up a Fire Dragon Crusader. So a really good turn there for Jacob. Jacob now in firm control here. He's going to be able to Foff. He's got another removal spell that he's going to get here.
See Flare in 2 lands. Jacob goes ahead and takes the Flare, puts 2 lands back. He has double Revelation in his hand and 9 lands on table.
Yeah, so I expect him to probably... okay, so now he can Sphinx for as much as he wants, not fearing Skullcrack. So
Yep, Domri's played.
Domri can get you... Domri can get you a little card advantage, but not nearly as much as Sphinx of Revelation.
No.
So here we go, Sphinx for 6 here, going to bring Jacob up to 11. And he still has that Jace Architect of Thought in play.
Yeah, so he's going to go ahead and plus it. And here's where we get to the point where, we said Jacob's deck has very few win cons, and we're about to see that in action.
Mutavault is going to be attacking Domri here, so that's a good start.
Yep, Mutavault attacks Domri. Jacob's going to go ahead and tap 3.
And there's a Fiendslayer Paladin,
Fiendslayer,
wow.
okay.
And there's another Fiendslayer. So, and there's another Mutavault. So suddenly the deck with that many win conditions has 4 in play.
Yeah.
Tom upticks again, misses yet again. And
he has Titan Strength, Madcap skills, and it looks like Skullcrack in his hand.
Yeah, so Jacob at 11 is going to be able to gain 4 life off the Fiendslayer Paladins. It looks like everything's going to be coming over right now.
Yep, and 2 at Domri, 2 at Tom. Put Tom down to 21, and it'll take out the Domri.
And Fiendslayer, Tom can Skullcrack in response to the attack. Yeah, prevent the life gain from Fiendslayer. But again, Jacob has another Revelation, so if he wants to, you can just cast it right here and gain some more life. Don't really see a reason to.
Yeah,
so
he's not in any danger of taking 11.
He can't get burnt out at this point. So looks like Jacob's just going to go down to 8. Tom could have gone after the Jace, but decided it wasn't worth it. Yeah, it was actually pretty bad that if Jacob upticked before the attack, it might not have mattered. But Tom could have actually stolen that Jace that turn, or killed it, rather.
Absolutely, yes. So swing of 2 by Jacob with the Fiendslayers will put Tom down below 20. He's now down to 17. A Jace is plussed. Another land drop's made and passed back.
I feel like we're going to have one more turn before Tom concedes.
Yeah,
oh,
there
nope,
you go.
not even. So Tom unable to overcome Jacob's top deck Supreme Verdict. I think it was close. I mean, it was definitely, if Jacob didn't have that Supreme Verdict there, I think he still was in okay shape, but obviously that was huge.
He has to Revelation his whole board and hope to find something, but the Revelation will pretty much buy him a turn.
Yeah, and I'm not sure at what point Tom had that Skullcrack, so it might have not even mattered. But obviously Jacob, sometimes you got a top deck, and especially against like Gruul Blitz, that's one of those decks where it puts so much pressure on you that a lot of times if you don't have that turn for Supreme Verdict, you can just die on the spot. And thankfully Jacob does go up to 4 Last Breaths after board and 2 Celestial Flares, so he basically has 10 ways that he can interact with Tom's creatures on turn 2.
Yeah.
So even on the draw, he has some play against a deck like Tom's deck.
When we go back to sideboards, there's one change that I want to talk about, and this is Jacob Wilson's sideboard having 1 Jace Memory Adept in it. There's a card which I believe, and I talked to Huey about this as well. It's a card that's just bad in blue-white control, and that in theory you don't need Jace Memory Adept. Most people play it in their sideboard as a one-of so that they could win a possible game 3 in time limits. Like ideally, if I just have Elixir of Immortality and Jace Architects of Thought and I get my Revelations and Elixirs going, like, I'll win, right?
Yeah.
But if there's only 10 minutes on the clock and, the clock's running down, I can't actually speed up my win at all.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will board in 1 Jace 5 so that they can be like, all right, Revelation, Revelation, Revelation. Oh, by the way, Jace 5, 0, 0, 0. I can end the game. And what I'm wondering here is, so the downside is that Jace 5 is unnecessary. In some matchups, he's unnecessary. In some matchups, he's just bad. This one falls into the just bad category.
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously, Jace isn't great against aggressive decks, and against other control decks like the Mirror Match or Esper, I think it's okay. But I wouldn't want it over Elixir or Mortality because
Yeah,
they serve very similar roles, except Elixir can't be gainsayed. And Gainsay is a card that you're going to probably see in the sideboard of almost every blue-white base deck.
yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like they both serve the same role, except Elixir can't be gainsayed, which is actually really huge.
It can't be gained. It can't be thought seized on the draw.
And it's a lot easier to resolve.
right.
And the one advantage that Jace Memory Adept has, it's much better against mid-range decks, like so green black base decks like we saw in round 1 with Kibler. The problem is, though, you already have a good matchup against those decks. So it's not like you need a Jace Memory Adept. So I think Memory Adept is okay in the sideboard, but it's not one of those cards that I would want over an Elixir of Immortality.
Right. So here's my question, which I was going to go back to that. What's the number, so when I'm playing blue-white, like, I haven't actually come up with a specific number, but, if game 3 starts with 8 minutes left in the game, you can bet that Jace 5's in my deck, right? Because I can't win in under 8 minutes. And at a tournament like the Invitational, a draw is not even that bad. So, is Jake, at what time on the clock is Jake just going to start auto-siding in the Jace 5? We're going to start this game with about 19 minutes, it looks like.
Well, if I think he's more likely to just bring in the Fiendslayer Paladins. I mean, he's got Fiendslayer.
Okay, so he does have, he has another clock that's somewhat legitimate.
He has a way to sort of speed things up with Fiendslayer Paladin. Tom obviously has no real way to interact with Fiendslayer Paladin.
Right.
So I kind of don't think it's that. I just don't see
because
Jacob.
he's boarded in the Paladins, he doesn't need to do that.
Memory Adept is just too bad in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like regardless
it's
of how
really
much time.
bad.
Yeah. Regardless of how much time is on the clock.
All right, so this is when Tom will get to be on the play. We have not had that yet this game, or this match.
And this is one of the issues with Tom's deck is his mana is really not that good. He's forced to play cards like the Temple, which aren't really good in an aggressive deck with so many 1-drops. So
no.
Again, he's not able to play the Rakdos Cackler he has in his hand because his land comes into play tapped.
Well, all the cards in his deck really want as many red mana symbols as possible. We have a lot of red 2-drops. We have Dragon Mantles. But at the same time, we have green cards. So the mana base is pretty bad. We see a turn 2 Rakdos Cackler from Thomas, just 2 lands from Jacob.
And it looks like Rakdos Cackler is going to come over and it's going to be met by an Azorius Charm.
Yeah, and anytime you get a chance to Azorius Charm or 1-drop, that's very powerful for the control player.
So it looks like Domri's going to come down and boom,
Rakdos
Cackler comes right back.
I love plussing a Domri when you already know the result.
Yeah. So it looks like we're going to see a Fiendslayer Paladin come down here. Great draw from Jacob. It's going to be able to deal with that Cackler that we know is in Tom's hand, and also be able to put pressure on Domri rather.
So we see Domri at 4, Tom on taps. He's going to have 4 lands.
Looks like he drew a Legion Loyalist.
Yeah,
Not the best against
that is
Fiendslayer
a 3-of in his deck, actually.
So it's not bad with Madcap skills, but...
Yeah, Legion Loyalist played, it attacks.
And Tom...
Well, this should be... Jacob should be suspicious.
Yeah, I don't think Jacob can afford to block here.
Yeah. I think we saw no block, and Tom just went to the dome with a Gorklan Rampager.
Interesting. And here we're going to see Domri take it out now.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Glade Cover... Oh, the Scout!
Yeah,
The
but Glade Cover Scout
makes
is
an
a 1-of
appearance.
in Tom's deck.
1/1 Hexproof.
All right.
So Tom was able to answer the Fiendslayer Paladin. It looks like Jacob just has a negate in his hand. So
he has a negate, a
kept him
Celestial
negate.
Flare, and a Sphinx's Revelation, among others.
So it looks like both the 1/1s are going to come over here.
That'll put Jacob down to... Well, let's see here.
So Jacob has the Celestial Flare. So he has an answer to one of those. But, do you really want to be casting Celestial Flare against a pair of 1/1s?
Just to get rid of a Legion Loyalist or a Glade Cover Scout. I'm not thrilled about the play, that's for sure. We see Rakdos Cackler from Tom. He also has his 1 remaining card, which is a Domri Rod. Looks like Tom is waiting for Jacob to tap out.
Yeah. And it looks like, Jacob doesn't have that Jace, which would be huge this game. Unfortunately, just has a bunch of really inefficient removal spells against this particular army that Tom has amassed.
Yeah, so what that means is that Jacob's going to be killing things slowly as we see him cast a Celestial Flare, but it looks like he's going to take a lot of damage before he gets everything off the board.
Yeah. Jacob's at 15, so he's not in terrible shape right here, but he's got to get something more robust in play. He needs like an Elspeth or another Fiendslayer Paladin. He just can't rely on one-for-one-ing Tom here, because the only way this works out is if you're able to resolve a big revelation, which I'm not sure you're going to have enough time to do.
Right. Certainly the name of the game for the Jacob is just to survive to 8 lands.
Yeah, plus you're dealing with the Domri. You still need some answer to Domri.
Well, he does have a negate in hand, so as long as he never taps out, he has the answer to Domri.
Well, no, Domri's in play. I mean, the Domri, Tom's got it off screen,
Okay.
It's a little hidden off screen, but that Domri ride
you're right,
is in play.
This is still
and
the
it's been
same
up,
one.
I believe
This is
it's
the
a
same
4.
Domri, yeah. And Tom has a replacement Domri in his hand.
Yeah, so the problem is that if Domri goes ultimate, it's very difficult for blue-white control to beat that
you
emblem.
just can't let it go ultimate, I'm pretty sure.
So, Jacob is at the point now where it's basically the tension sphere on your Domri before it can get, he has, I think, 3 turns.
All right, so 2 mana. Jacob's going to start up. I like this. He's going to crack the elixir first, and that before he Celestial Flares here.
Well, he wants to play around Skullcrack, I think. Maybe pretend that he has a dissolve here. So he's going to gain the life. He wants to make sure he gains the life. He's got the negate for the Skullcrack, and now he's going to Celestial Flare. So even if Tom does have a Skullcrack, it doesn't matter. He already gained the life.
Right.
So it looks
Flare
like
happens.
Let's see what Tom. What would you sacrifice here if you're Tom? Do you want to get rid of your Hexproof
My
guy
guess is I'd
for more
sacrifice.
power?
It depends. If I don't have any auras in my hand, I suppose so.
So it looks like he gets rid of the Hexproof creature. Misses
Domri
again with
misses
Domri.
again.
Wow.
So
Pretty unfortunate for Tom. And there's the Jace.
All right,
so
that'll
huge draw there for Jacob.
yeah, big draw. He still, remember, doesn't have the answer to Domri, but he's going to be a lot more efficient at finding it.
Yeah, so we know that Tom doesn't have a creature on top of his deck. It could be another land, which is great for Jacob. Or if it's a spell, Jacob does have a
And he
negate
has a
for it
negate,
anyway.
Right,
so
knowing it's not a creature is a pretty safe place for Jacob to be in.
oh, so Jacob's going to draw 3 here.
He's going to
gain
rev
3
for
life.
3 instead of Jacing.
He's going to play a Temple to Scry for 1 and puts it on the bottom.
Remember, those temples in the deck are they're just coming to play tap lands with Scry when there is no black in Jacob's deck.
Oh, there's a Rampager. So I think the thing is, I think Jacob's just trying to find the answer for Domri. I think he's starting to feel the squeeze a little bit
Well,
here.
yeah, he does not. He has 2 turns. All right, and his draw is a Fiendslayer Paladin. A good card, remember, it does not actually have protection from red and black. It's just...
Yeah, just can't be targeted by red or black spells.
Right.
Does have first strike, and there's a Supreme Verdict. So it looks like it's going to be Supreme Verdict or no here.
Yep, Jacob takes Supreme Verdict. Looks like he's going to cast it.
I don't think he played a land this turn, so you can play a land and cast Supreme Verdict this turn. Again, still no answer to Domri, though, so let's see what Tom does. He's going to uptick Domri again. Does he hit a creature, though?
Remember, upticking again puts it... So he's going to go ahead and first Temple.
There we go.
Nope, it was not
That
a
is
creature.
not a creature.
So now he's going to try again.
Wow.
Wow, so Tom
2
misses.
creatures. He has 24 creatures in his deck, 25 after board, and misses.
He has 1 for 4 this game.
Yeah, that is so far so good for Jacob, but Jacob loses his Jace to Skullcrack.
That's a pretty big Skullcrack, and...
Ooh, it looks like Jacob drew another Sphinx of Revelation.
Well, that'll be good, but the problem is with the Revelation is that the emblem will already be there.
Well,
now.
let's see. Is he going to try to Sphinx here for 2 to try to draw into the tension? He could leave 3 mana up.
Yeah, there's a Sphinx.
And he
can Sphinx for 3.
To try to draw a land in the detention sphere. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it looks like he's going to try to go for the detention sphere here. Land in the detention sphere.
So he has
Syncopate,
Syncopate,
Detention Sphere. Oh,
Verdict.
But doesn't,
Oh, man.
does he have a land in his hand? No, he doesn't.
Had he revved for 2, he'd have it right now.
So it was a gamble. Jacob was trying to draw that land and detention sphere, but just drew 1 of the pieces. So it looks like Tom is going to be able to get an emblem here. Yep, he's just going for it.
Does not hesitate. Makes an emblem.
He has another Domri, but he doesn't know about the negate. That's the thing. Yep.
Tom's only remaining card in his hand right now is Giant Growth.
Yeah.
But okay, so saying that, looking at the boards, Jacob with a lot of lands and Sphinx's Revelations.
Jacob is firmly ahead here.
Okay,
That's
so
even with the
Domri
emblem.
emblem.
Yeah, the problem is
Okay.
Jacob's at 19, and the emblem is only good if you're drawing creatures each turn. So ideally, if he had the emblem and it was able to resolve that second Domri, then he's in good shape.
Jacob's
but now,
in danger of never resolving another spell, actually.
Exactly, yeah.
We see Burning Tree Emissary. Jacob can actually let this resolve because his Fiendslayer actually will trade with it, thanks to First Strike.
So I think he's going to, let's see what he does here. He could just cast...
He can Syncopate for 5, but Tom has 5.
Yeah, but the Burning Tree is going to attack for 4, though. I just don't think Jacob cares.
He could trade them. He'll go ahead
No,
and take 4.
I think he's fine just making this trade because he's going to be ahead on life. Fiendslayer's going to come over and gain him 2 more life, and then he still has
So
another...
they're just racing solid, right?
Yeah, they're just racing. I think he might have another Sphinx of Revelation in his hand too.
So you start with an Azorius Charm, just digging for more lands or planeswalkers.
And he has a Celestial Flare, so that's another answer.
That's excellent. Yeah, and this is where Control gets in a really nice spot.
So let's see what Tom is able to muster here.
We see, I was going to say,
Oh.
what would be his best draw? I was thinking maybe
And
Gorgon Rampager.
4, 6, so he could syncopate for 6 here.
I think he has to.
He has to. Yeah, he should. He has that. He could just take it in Supreme Verdict, but
And he has the Verdict.
he has a Supreme Verdict in his hand. Yeah, but ooh.
And Giant Growth on Gorgon Rampager, even bigger.
So Rampager is threatening to do 14 on its own.
Yeah. But that was the last card in Tom's hand, so Jacob knows that he's not going to get Lightning Struck, at least this turn.
So he can cast Celestial Flare, or he's gonna. It looks like he might try to syncopate the Giant Growth. Yeah.
So Giant Growth's countered unless he pays 4. He's going to go with the Flare and the Syncopate.
No, I think he's just going to Supreme Verdict on this turn. He's going to lose his Fiend Slayer
All
power.
right, so he takes
Yeah, and I
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, goes to 5.
yeah, I don't love this sequence for Jacob, just because I kind of think you want that Fiend Slayer in play. I mean, you can't just deal with every creature Tom and top decks here.
Right. So we see a Jace drawn by Jacob. He's going to go ahead and Verdict.
And he can't even cast the Jace here. He has to hold up Celestial Flare mana.
Yep. And it was not a creature drawn by Tom.
Wow, Tom
so.
is not very lucky with the creatures here. With his only 19 lands in his deck, he has a lot of lands in play.
He does have 24 creatures, so 40% of his deck.
Wow, that is a great Fact or Fiction here. It's
Whoa.
going to give him at least a Mutavault,
Okay.
possibly Mutavault and a removal, Last Breath. But Last Breath's not really relevant
Yeah,
here.
because of Hexproof.
Yeah. So Tom really doesn't have a good split here.
So,
He's
so
going to give
Jacob
him.
gets a Mutavault, right?
Yeah. Last Breath's irrelevant.
And I wonder why Tom's considering this. I don't know if he is.
Well, the thing is, he might not want to give him the life. The thing is, if you give him just 2 Mutavaults,
Then he can't
he
life
can't
gain his
life
own
gain.
guy.
He can't kill a Mutavault in Last Breath. It just gains some life because Jacob
Sure.
is at 7. But ooh, Python Needle on Domri Ride, I'd imagine.
I would think so. There's no other activated abilities in his deck, so.
Celestial Flare is going to take out that creature. Yep. So Jacob does name Domri, and Celestial Flare deals with the Rampager. So Tom running low on options here. Jacob's going
Alright.
to fact again.
We see land, Last Breath land once again.
Yeah. This is a tough split here. I think it's got to be Mutavault or a no, though.
So you assume that Jacob will take the Mutavault, right?
Yeah, I think he just wants blockers.
I mean, Last Breath's actually not a card.
Yeah, and he wants ways to attack, too. Now he can actually attack with Mutavault, yeah.
I said Jacob has to be. Remember, there are 8 minutes remaining. He's fine though. He's plenty of time.
Yeah,
here.
and he's got a Last Breath, so he can actually activate Mutavault and Last Breath his creature.
All right, Cackler into play for Tom Ross. Remember, Jacob's hand is just Dissension Sphere, Last Breath, and land, so nothing doing in there. And Tom's gonna swing Jacob down to 3, isn't he?
Yep, there's nothing he can do currently to interact. He's got the Tension Sphere, Last Breath. None of those can interact with Rakdos Cackler right here. He
Oh,
could.
wow.
I think he's.
So he
trying-
doesn't have a Revelation left, does he?
No, he doesn't have Revelation in his hand. He does have Last Breath, so he can activate his Mutavault and then cast Last Breath. So he has a 4 life gain cushion if he
Oh
needs
wow!
it.
And so here we go. Titan Strength. That's gonna be for lethal. Jacob's gonna have to make that play.
Yeah,
Activates Mutavault, Last Breath. So this will put Jacob to 1.
yeah. So he's gonna go down to 1 here.
So, you know, we were saying like, okay, who was winning at that when he made the emblem and Jacob had all the cards? It's close, right?
Well, I think if Jacob actually syncopated the Rampager and didn't use the Supreme Verdict to kill his own Fiendslayer Paladin, he'd be in so much better shape. But the problem is that you can't close out games and you can't target any of the creatures
Yeah.
now, you know. But it looks like he did
He
top
draws
deck
Sphinx's
Sphinx
Revelation.
and
So
Tom
that's
has,
a good draw, right?
Yeah, Tom has no cards in his hand, so he doesn't have to worry about Skullcrack here.
All right, that should be good enough. We see here, and he's gonna do it during upkeep.
So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 9 cards. Jacob will go back up to 10. Just 1 Giant Growth from
Yeah,
dead. All
no,
right.
yeah, Tom has
can
plenty of
top
outs.
deck him back. And he
There
does it
it
right
is.
off the top. Giant Growth.
Tom Ross, top deck, cool as the other side of the bed. Tom Ross does not mind.
One good top
One
deck
bit.
deserves another there. So Tom Ross, 2 games to 1 with his Gruul Blitz deck.
Let's add a little smile there, finally.
Yeah, so he'll move on to 2-0 Gruul Blitz. Jacob Wilson will be 1-1.